What's up, gamers? Do you want to make your Instagram stories more engaging, more interesting? Well, in this episode, I'll be showing you how I create my Insta stories. It's time to level up. What's up, gamers? Today I'm going to show you how I create my graphics for stories on Instagram. Sometimes I do share a post and create a story with it, but it's kind of basic. So sometimes it's just nice to spend a little bit more time on my story and create something even better. So sometimes you can do something like this where it's just a post that you've already made on your feed, and you're just saying, this in this case, thanks for 1,000 followers. I can take the same elements from this post, which is right here, pull these elements and create a story out of it and just reformat it using the same stuff, so it doesn't take that much more time. So let's get started and build something kind of like this. So for a story, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to create a new comp. And for the stories, the width is 1080, but the height is going to have to change to 1920 and hit OK. So this is our story comp. I'm going to start with a background, and I'm going to drop this camo pattern in there. And actually that's pretty good right like it is now. I do need to change the color a little bit, so I'm going to go with this layer selected, go Effect, and Color Correction, Lumetri Color. I'm going to open up the Basic Correction tab, and I'm going to bump this temperature all the way up to, I don't know, maybe somewhere close to 100 or so. Give it that kind of warm texture there, or warm feel. I'm going to bring the contrast down and just saturate it a little bit more. Maybe not that much saturation. I don't want it to be completely orange. That'll work for now. Okay. Next up, I'm going to create a border, and I'm going to use this rectangle tool, and I'm just going to go kind of close to the edge and come back down to this side and just kind of eyeball this, and I'll line it up later. That'll work. And with this layer still selected, this white layer, I want the fill to go away because I don't want any fill at all. So I'm bring that opacity down to 0 and hit OK. And then the stroke, I'm going to change that to 10. Hit enter. And I want this to be white. Hit OK. Okay, we're starting to get somewhere. Let's give this a drop shadow so it stands out a little bit more. So with this border selected, I'm going to go layer, layer style, drop shadow. And I'm going to open up this drop shadow and give it a little bit more distance, maybe 15, and bring up the size a little bit. Not that much, maybe like 10. And then I'm going to change this from multiply to normal, and I'm going to bring up the opacity all the way up so it's a little bit darker. Make it stand out a little bit more. Okay. Next up, I am going to drop some of the gold, I don't know what it was, gold dust or gold red embers or whatever in there. And I'm going to drop that right on the top. And I'm going to use an S on the keyboard to open up the scale option. And I'm going to scale this down because I know I want this at the top and kind of at the bottom. So I'm going to bring that down, scale down to about 60%. And then I'm going to hit R on the keyboard to open up the rotation and change that from 0 to 90. So it rotates 90 degrees. And as you can see, we still have that black background there. So with that layer still selected, I'm going to go Effect, Keying, Linear Color Key, and use my eyedropper tool to select that black background, and that gets rid of that black background. Okay, right now this is a little too overpowering. There's too much of it on there. So I'm just going to use the Shift and the arrow key to move this up a bit. Maybe about to right there. And another thing, since this is a video, I can click on this bar and drag it over, and this is going to change. So that can give me a little bit of variation, which would be nice. So it's not just a complete mirror image of what's on top versus what's on bottom, because I'm gonna have two layers of this gold dust, golden red dust here. So that looks all right for now. So what I'm going to do is take that layer and hit Command D on a Mac, and I'm going to duplicate the layer, and then I'm going to hit R for rotation, and I'm going to go to -90, so that's on the bottom, and then use Shift and the arrow key to just bring this back down to the bottom here, and then I'm going to shift this new layer, this top layer, over just on this video so it looks a little bit different, so it's not exactly the same. Not quite that far. Let's get something. That's all right. It'll work for now. Okay. And then another thing I want to do is I want to give these two layers a drop shadow. So I'm going to go back to this layer, our white border layer, and open that up. And I'm going down here to drop shadow and select it, and then copy it, Command C, and then select my two dust layers and hit Command V, paste that in there. So those just really pop out a lot more. Cool. So that's starting to come together here. All right. So next up, I'm going to add the little bit of a glowing grid that was back here. So I'm going to go back to this original image, and I'm going to grab this grid. I'm going to copy it and paste. And all I've done with this grid was cut out the background, where the background was black. So I'm just going to show you without all these effects. So I started out with a black background. So I just used the linear color key, used the eyedropper tool to cut that out. And then it gave me this white kind of grid with these boxes and little numbers and stuff. And then I did the change to color tool, which gave me the option to change from a white grid to kind of this orangish red grid. So it kind of blends a little bit better. And then I added a glow to this as well, just so that there's a little bit more of an outline to it, and it kind of helps it stand out a little bit more. So yeah, just another little layer of detail just to make it pop. Next up, I'm going to add our operator who is in here. So I'm going to go back to the original file, our original post, and I'm going to select this guy and copy him and paste. And now I'm going to bring this down, kind of line this up in the middle roughly. That'll work for now. So with this layer, all I did was use the pen tool and go in and cut him out of the original image. And then I duplicated the layer, so there's two layers. And with that bottom layer, I created a white glow around him to make him stand out from the background a lot more. So without that white layer, he's just kind of blend in with these gray on grays. So yeah, next up we can add our text. So use the text tool and write in 1000, bring this up to the top layer. And for now, I'm going to make this white so we can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to bring this up to like maybe 300, and a little more, like maybe about 320. So it's roughly about the same size as the operator here. I'm going to put that right there. And then I'm going to duplicate the layer, Command D. And this one is going to have to be much smaller, probably like 120 or so. And 1,000 followers. So I'm going to center these with the align tool. And then also, let's see, next up we need our little thank you bar at the top. So I'm going to take this followers one and duplicate that again. Bring that up here. I'm going to bring this down a little bit, maybe 80 or so. If I could type. There we go. Thank you. And then one more piece of text. I'm going to duplicate this one more time. down at the bottom here, I'm putting my handle. And then I'm going to make this even smaller. There we go. And then I'm going to center this as well with the align tool. One thing I'd like to do too is I'm going to select all 4 of these text layers. And then I'm going to hit R on the keyboard. And I'm going to rotate these like that. -3, -4. Okay. Next up, after our text, we're going to probably put in kind of a background layer that we kind of use these little, let me see this original here, layers, which is actually, I think, an L or a dash or something like that with this same font. So it all kind of blends together. So I'm going to take this layer, duplicate it, select that, and do a dash. I think that's right. And then I'm going to take this dash and bring it all the way up. I think it's like 1200 is the highest you can go. 1296. So, okay, that's not quite as large as I want that to be, to go as a kind of a background for this 1000 followers. So I'm going to have that layer selected and hit S. And I'm just going to scale this up. Maybe about like that. Maybe a little smaller. Okay, that'll work. And then I want this layer to be behind my text layers. And I'm going to change these text layers to black so they show up better. And I want these texts to kind of not fit within this bar, but kind of overlap a little bit. So I'm just using the shift and the arrow keys to move my text around. That'll work for now. And then I'm going to shift all of this down just a bit. So we're not covering up our operator completely. Okay, that'll work for now. We need to do the same thing with this background layer here. I'm going to copy and paste it, move it up here, and then I'm going to scale this back down a bit. And actually, that's about the right length, but it's too thick. So I'm going to drag this point down and kind of make this a little slimmer. And change my text to black. And then bring this up here. I'm going to use the align tool with that white layer selected. And then what I can do is take that layer, move it up right below thank you. And the thank you and that white layer, I'm going to select both of those. And then use the horizontal and vertical align so it just kind of fits nicely right in the middle of that white layer. That will work for now. Okay. And then we need one more white bar down here for the Mando Brando Gaming text. So I'm going to select this white layer, copy, paste, bring this down here. Make sure it's just right behind the Mando Brando text. And I'm going to change that text to black. And this one, I'm just going to resize this a little bit. All right, I'm going to center that and center my text. Bring it up a little. Okay, it's starting to come together. The 1000 followers text, I'm going to duplicate those because I want to give those a white border so it kind of feels like it's all one layer in a way. So what I'm going to do is take that 1000 followers, duplicate it, and then the bottom layer of those followers, I'm going to take my eyedropper tool, select white for the background, for the stroke color, And then down here where you can set the stroke width, I'm going to change that to maybe 20. Enter. And that gave us this white background here around the text. I'm going to shift this just a little bit. Cool. That works. All right, I'm going to do the same thing for the followers. I'm going to duplicate it, take the bottom layer, and select white for the stroke. And I'm going to bring that stroke up to not quite 20 since it's much smaller. Maybe like 16. Yeah, that works because I go all the way up to 20, like the 1000 text up here. It feels like it's too thick of a border for that, so I'm going to bring that back down, like 15. That works. I'm going to shift up this followers text just a little bit more. Okay, we're just about there. I'm going to create a new layer, pre-comp, with all of my text and these little background white bars. So I'm going to have that all selected. I'll right-click, pre-compose, and move all attributes is selected. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go back down here to this white border layer, which I know has this dark drop shadow. I'm going to open that back up, select the drop shadow, copy it, and I'm going up to my new pre-comp, which has all this text on here, and paste it so that I get that same shadow throughout all this text and these little white bars. I'm also going to give that same shadow, actually I've already got that shadow on our operator, so that looks good. I think that looks pretty darn close to what we started with. Yeah, it's not too bad. All right, well, I think that'll about do it for now. One thing to be sure of when you are creating your stories is making sure you have enough space at the top and enough space at the bottom. Like that top and bottom 10-15%, you want to leave a little bit of room there because there's always little circles up here, there's text on here, there's stuff that kind of blocks some of the information, so you don't want to get it too far to the bottom or too far to the top. And just as always, please let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I think next time we will be showing you how to animate this content here and do a story as a video with the same content. Everybody have a great day. Bye.